Hi, and welcome to the Splendid Sampler 2 Sew Along. My name is Joyce Venus, and I'm very honored to be a guest designer in this book. My block that I created is called Estelle, after my mother, and I just wanted to share that block with you today and also to share with you some tips and techniques on creating this block. We're going to start with our fabric that's going to create our pinwheel blocks. And I oversized the cut of this so I can cut it to the exact dimensions that we're going to need. I like to use my magic wand. The reason I like that is the magic wand has an etched line in the bottom of it, which goes right down the center. This is an exact 1/2 inch wide, so 1/4 inch on each side of that. So if I wanted to, I could put this across the center and then mark both sides, or I can use it and just go from corner to corner and draw a straight line across and then use my 1/4 inch foot and sew on both sides of that. So I did that. I sewed a scant 1/4 inch on both sides of that center line. Then I'm going to cut it, and I just use a scissors. I don't worry about it being exactly straight because it is just my seam allowance. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to press this, and for this one I'm going to press to this fabric. So I first want to press it this way. Then I take this, and since I want the seam allowance to go toward this dark fabric, I'm going to just roll this up and then press again. By doing it that way, by rolling it, I get a nice crisp seam there. Once I have that done, the next thing I want to do is I want to trim it to the size that I need it. So I'm going to take my block, and I'm going to, just for this demo purposes, I'm going to have it finish at 2 1/4 inches. So I put my block lock ruler on top. Now why I like a block lock ruler is because it has this groove in the back. It's an etched out groove. It's a 1/4 inch wide, so my seam allowance just rides along in there. I can put this on, and as you can see, it locks that 1/4 inch seam right in that groove. You want to make sure that the point of the block lock ruler is also matching the seam line. If I had turned this the other way around, as you can see, my corner is way over here. So you always want to make sure that the corner matches the seam line. One way that I keep remembering that is the word block lock, which is on the ruler, is always going to be on my background piece, so the side that does not have the seam allowance. So using my rotary cutter, the first cut that I want to make is I want to make sure that it's larger than 2 1/4 inches. So I'm going to cut these two sides, pull away my trash, then I just slide my ruler, rotate it, then I line this up with 2 1/4, this up with 2 1/4, make sure my seam allowance is right in there, and then I can cut these other two sides. And then I have the perfect 2 1/4 inch square. And that's my 2 1/2 inch square with the half square triangle. The next thing I want to do is I want to take my half square triangles and I want to sew them together. So for example, this is one that I sewed together. I hadn't trimmed these first, but as you can see, by nesting these two seams, I get a perfect point right there. So I'm going to do 2 rows of that. So I've got my medium and my light, and my medium and my dark fabric. When I go to sew these two squares together, as you can see, I make sure that my seam allowance, when my needle goes across there, that it goes right into the point of this triangle. And that way I know that when I open it, I am going to have that real nice crisp corner in the middle. Now to remove the bulk, instead of pressing this seam allowance just to one side, instead what I do is I push one way and one the other way. And by doing that, there's a couple little stitches in the center that I may have to use my seam ripper for, but sometimes I can just pull it apart. And as you can see, it makes a tiny little pinwheel in the center. I smush that down, then I go to press it. And when I'm pressing that, I get this beautiful crisp point in the center, and there's not a lot of bulk in the center. So I really hope that you've enjoyed that and that has taught you something new. These are a couple of other blocks that I've created using my block pattern, and I've got it done in the blues and tans, and then the black and the taupe and the tan. I hope that this inspires you to create a block. And so what we would like to do is invite you to join the sew along, create this block, send a picture of it to our email, Joyce@thimblesquilts.com. You'll see it in the link below. Send us a picture of the block and we will post a picture of all the different blocks. We're going to have a random drawing, so we hope that you will enter a picture of your block and see below for all of the details of that. Also, if there's any products that I used today that you would be interested in or would like more information about, feel free to give us a call at Thimbles Quilts or email us and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you for joining us.